Welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
Johnny Sue over there on those ones and twos. Are we up on Rokfin, sir? We are up on Rokfin, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't joined up, Rokfin. I almost said X over there. Rokfin. Join on in. Help us out. Thank you all to our Patreons. As always, we love the fact that you guys always help the fam out. We got a long show, so let's get into it. Got a lot of stuff to jump to, fam. It's been a really interesting weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Starting with the Biden-Harris place. You know, I remember when we were throwing the first fish party, and we were getting nervous. Like, what if we threw a party and no one showed up? But then the party was great. There was a lot of people there. It was fun. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had that nightmare come true.
It was only your nightmare. It was not mine.
You've never had that nightmare to throw a party and no one ever shows up?
Well, my mom once sent the wrong address to the wrong date on a birthday party. So, like, 4 people showed up when I was, like, 10. So it's nothing that I've, like, been, like, worried about. But that was my mom's fault. So you posted this, actually. Biden and Harris had a campaign event in Arizona, and the local press said that not one supporter showed up.
Yeah. And I understand people are going to say, but COVID and all this other stuff, it doesn't make a difference. You know what I'm saying? When people are excited about a candidate, it could be a hurricane outside. They'll still go. I'll let Donald Trump, they're still going. You know, Bernie Sanders, when it was freezing cold in Brooklyn and you couldn't even feel your fingers. People will go no matter what the circumstances if they're excited about you. Here, it doesn't seem like there's much excitement going on. And Arizona is interesting because Arizona is one of those battleground states. They feel that that's up for grabs. And this was the first time that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden got together since they announced they were running as the dynamic duo. Go ahead, Johnny.
Going on, and I'm told by one of the Biden staffers, local staffers, is that they kind of kept the details about the visit as far as the timing and the exact locations, and pretty much all the people that we saw enter into the parking lot about 45 minutes ago were with the Biden-Harris campaign and the pool reporters. So you would expect to see, I mean, this is a pretty big event for the two of them to be campaigning together for the first time since the Democratic National Convention here in Arizona. We've established, our state has established itself as a battleground state, and so this is technically a big event, but not a lot of fanfare. So we're getting information about what's going on with these meetings from our national correspondent pool reporters, but from out here, you really can't tell anything much is going on. Biden-Harris campaign not releasing a lot of details about where these events are taking place and exactly when. Like I said, you know, this is a huge event politically, but you can't tell by the outside of the Heard Museum. There's really not a lot going on here.
Well, Miss McCain spoke at the virtual Democratic National Convention, recalling the relationship Biden and John McCain formed during their Senate careers. She then formally endorsed Biden for president last month, praising his, quote, character and integrity.
They're such
That's all they
phonies.
can praise.
Fam, now you've seen a Bernie event like where a lot of people don't know what's going on. They're waiting to hear. And then the information gets released. Then what happens?
What do you mean?
Like people like. There's like, all right, Bernie's going to be in an event Saturday. He's going to be here Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We don't know when he's going to be Sunday, but when we hear, we'll let you know. Because they're like saying like they didn't release the information. They're trying to kind of protect themselves from the fact that it was just a horrible, disastrous moment that nobody shows up. But I just want to let you speak from experience because you know what it's like. And all of a sudden you'll hear like, boom, Bernie's going to be doing this. It's a pickup thing. How many people show up for those things if they are excited for that candidate?
Thousands of people show up. I mean, even the criticism that I gave the Bernie Sanders campaign with like last minute changes and not really having their shit together when it came to putting the events together. They didn't let people know ahead of time. The media found out barely ahead of time. And even at those events, you had a lot of people show up. Now, it wasn't as much as 2016 in some parts. Because of the way they did it, but it was still like thousands of people that showed up at the last minute. And people are going to say, oh, but it's COVID. I don't think so. I mean, you have people going out in mass protests. You had what Johnny's going to talk about later, the Lakers winning. Like, I don't know, like so many people out there last night in downtown LA. You have the Trump rallies without Trump, like that people have every Saturday. Hundreds of people show up to those on the weekly basis. You have events where if people want to be there, they're gonna go, even with masks and stuff. Like, they're gonna go. And to say that it's just because of COVID, I think it's ridiculous. We saw the other event where Bernie Sanders was speaking for Joe Biden, campaigning for Joe Biden, and there was very few people in that event as well. And yeah, it was socially distant, but again, you're still going to have a lot of people who show up if they're excited, and there's literally no excitement for Joe Biden.
This is the least amount of excitement I saw. I thought Hillary Clinton was a disaster when she couldn't fill up a gymnasium. When I say Hillary, that one lady by herself, there's like 12 people, and they're like, shut up, lady, just be quiet. And the reason why there's nobody showing up is because they have nothing to offer you. Yep. Fam, I think anybody who believes in these polls when they tell you that Biden's way ahead of Trump.
He's ahead of the other Biden, too.
He's ahead of the other Biden, too, you know what I'm saying, in the other Rick and Morty universe. I think you're crazy, ladies and gentlemen, because this is not true. They are trying to gaslight you. They are trying to fool you with Fugazi polls. They're going to try to cheat their way into this whole thing because that's the only shot they got. There is zero excitement. But fam, since they have nothing to offer you policy-wise, because that's why there is no excitement, because now Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are trying to be the better Republican on the stage. They're letting people know 3 times and then tweeting it right after that they will not ban fracking, after saying they were going to ban fracking, that they will not defund the police while they're encouraging people to go out into the streets. We have a cool slow-motion video of cool-ass Joe walking in like a nice tailored suit here, fam. So this is going to get people rushing out to the polls. Look what they give you. And this has 3 million views. Fam, what is behind the mentality of the organization of the campaign right now that's running this?
An idiot, a moron. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's just, what is that?
That's like, Joe Biden.
Joe Biden walking
with his Requiem for a Dream,
and he says, "Let's go vote,
Dogs.
America."
Yeah,
let's go vote for what? What are we voting for? Like, literally, we're just voting for a guy walking
slowly
in slow-mo. Like, what is this?
I mean, this guy has given you nothing to vote for. I mean, really, to tell you the truth, this has to be a progressive nightmare of sorts. I know it is for me sometimes when I think about it. I keep saying to myself, I can't believe the Democrats are doing it again. If you think that this guy really legitimately won, then I'm just sorry for you. Really, really, if you're pushing this guy, all you idiots like Cenk Uygur and all these, I mean, seriously, this guy is just an empty suit.
He's a literal empty suit. There's nothing he can do. He can't have an add-on policy because there's no policy he supports that's much different than Donald Trump's. So it would be a waste of resources for him to even do that, especially since they're only targeting the audience of Republican moderates who don't like Trump. And that's the very small minority they're trying to target. So it's kind of like, it's just kind of pointless for him to do anything more than this. It's just kind of a joke. I feel like this whole thing is a joke. I feel like both of them don't want to be president. I feel like this is like, I don't know what to say about this. I mean, this is just sad.
Well,
it's really sad.
It is sad. It really, to tell you the truth, I mean,
and it's also enraging considering the fact that people are, on the daily, like now I'm hearing people are going to be unemployed again. Even the ones that had their jobs before, they're going to lose that job because businesses aren't getting any help. And I speak to some people who have small businesses whenever I encounter them, and they're not happy with the situation at all. They definitely don't like the way things were handled in California regarding like the nail salons, regarding like all these people who work retail and restaurants. They definitely lost out versus like a Republican state like Florida, where you can criticize all you want how open they are, but their numbers are actually better than our numbers, which is interesting. And people have been working. Yeah. So you can take it or leave it. You can be like, well, that's, but the fact is nobody really, the government, the Democrats and the Republicans didn't handle the situation right, and people are hurting. But instead of addressing those concerns, you just do that. Yeah, I mean, it's just the epitome of what the Democratic Party stands for.
That's all. That's it. Platitudes and just like little Shazams, little photo Shazams, little videos and stuff like that. You know, fam, I was stuck on a flight, had to watch a little
oh God,
news. I didn't watch this much this time because I try to sleep as much as I can, but it's the same mentality. You know what I'm saying? It's like Donald Trump bad, he's awful. You got to vote for Joe Biden to restore some decency and sanity to the Oval Office. But the thing that's really bothering me is the way that some of these elitist and these little, like, you know, doctors, whatnot, they chastise people about, like, well, you're doing the wrong thing. I see people out in groups. I have not gone to a restaurant inside myself for months and stuff like that. I understand that, doctor, whatever. I'm like, doctor, most people that are getting infected with the coronavirus are going out there because they have no economic solution to what needs to be done. And nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about the fact that, and you can hold the president accountable for this one. You know what I'm saying? You can hold everybody in Congress accountable, even my good friend Tulsi Gabbard. You can hold Pelosi, the squad. Nobody brought forth any economic solutions before they kicked up a ton of money up to the top. And it's that slow-moving asteroid that has finally hit the earth, and I don't know what's going to come of this. I don't know what's going to come of this when it comes to renters. I don't know what's going to come of this when it comes to small businesses, but I know that Joe Biden looks cool, like a 90-year-old Terminator of sorts from the Terminator 4, walking cool. But, fam, he did pick up a good endorsement over the weekend. Oh. Yeah. Putin trolls Biden. Communists and Dems share a common value, while Trump's record is hard on Russia. So pretty much what Putin did, and he is really, really trolling the Democratic Party right now and stuff like that. But he did want to point something out. And I just want to go to that third sentence where it starts off with Putin was speaking in terms of historic Soviet communism in a recent interview Wednesday detailed in Newsweek. The Democratic Party is traditionally closer to the so-called liberal values, closer to social democratic ideas. Putin began. So he started off right away saying that, like, you know,
not this Democratic
Party, but he's still doing that,
right?
Because he's trolling them. You know what I'm saying? It's great. But I think it's something that we really should talk about too as well, because when we talk about the Communist Party, we talk about this demonization of Russia. We were kind of talking about it the other day. You know, we don't want to necessarily put Putin on a pedestal. But the the Communist Party and what's over there, what Putin is all about. And if you see in that next sentence right below the picture, it says, after all, I was a member of the Soviet Communist Party for nearly 20 years, Putin added. I was a rank-and-file member, but it can be said that I believed the party's idea. I still like many of these left-wing values. So here he's talking about the left-wing values. Equality, right? You know what I'm saying? And I talk about, you know, Putin. Putin had that kind of similarity when it came to Bernie Sanders, when he was strong for the working party, and he really wanted to fix equality. Putin doesn't like his oligarchs. We talked about this, Johnny. Remember the first time we had Sloboda? It's like, oh, you know, the oligarchs, they get the Americans in line over here. They get the Congress in line. The oligarchs give the Congress their marching order, but it's different in Russia. Putin tells their oligarchs to settle down, you know what I'm saying? And he keeps them in check. So, I mean, it's just a little bit different. And also, fam, look who left the tweet. If we have a little tweet down below over here, it's really cool. It's inside the article, John. I made fam watch this movie called True Believer. And it was an old school movie where James Wood played this civil rights lawyers that was now defending civil liberties for drug dealers. And then you had the big New York government, like the Cuomo type of government, you know, like keeping, you know, the immigrants down and throwing them in prison without, you know, proper representation and framing them. And here comes James Woods to save the day. And at the end, I was like, fam, you know, James Woods is a big Trump supporter now, and here's a little tweet he left. I thought this was Babylon, the Babylon Bee, but he was just talking. He was kind of pointing out now, like, oh, look at Biden. Biden's the one close with Russia, not Donald Trump. So
I mean, it's interesting because I don't think Putin represents an actual communist party any longer. I mean, his government is more of a nationalist type of government, definitely heavily nationalist. A lot of the times because of the United States' attempt to really infringe on them. That's why a lot of these countries tend to be nationalists. I would say Putin is definitely to the right of the Communist Party, but it's interesting that he's mocking Joe Biden because a lot of people have said that Trump and Putin are like BFF when Trump has been extremely harsh on Russia, like sanctions and with the sanctions, with everything, and like
letting treaties expire.
I literally was called like a Russian or a Russian asset at least 3 times yesterday for saying that I'm not voting for Joe Biden. And it's really interesting. Like, it happens so much. And it's not just coming from the neoliberals now. It's coming from a lot of the neo-progressives who are buying into the Russiagate story, even today, 3 years later, as it was declassified that it was completely false. So I don't understand this obsession with painting Putin and Trump as best friends, when in reality, Joe Biden, and the thing is, the Democratic Party plays into it. They're like, oh, Trump and Putin, even though Donald Trump, policy-wise, has been hard on Putin.
Yeah.
So
and when you talk about Putin too as well, we talk about like the nationalistic things and the cultural issues and the social issues, definitely to the right.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a lot of the economic issues, like he's kind of on par with that, equality and whatnot. He was a card-carrying member of the Communist Party for years. That hammer and sickle represents the workers. You know what I'm saying? So, when it comes to those situations, it seems like he is definitely like, closer to what we want as far as like equality. I mean, when people say, are you a communist of sorts? I'm like, no, I just want rights for workers. I want workers to benefit in this country. I want workers at the lowest level, whether it be sweeping the street or cleaning. I want them to have enough economic, financial help to buy a house and live comfortably and be able to go, have medical, their medical bills taken care of. So, I mean, Putin is kind of somewhat there, closer to that than, the fact that I think he gets demonized all the time. And let's not forget, fam, the whole Russiagate thing. And this is something we should talk about, because people using the Russiagate thing, I had a debate recently, somebody Russiagated, you're being called a puppet online. We see it all the time. What are you, working for Russia and whatnot and stuff? For the neo-progressives out there who don't understand foreign policy, this will be a good start for you. Start off by saying Russiagate was fake. It never happened. It was made up by the Hillary Clinton campaign, and now we find, fam, all the money ties from Nancy Pelosi to CrowdStrike.
Nancy Pelosi.
Adam Schiff knew for years that they had no empirical evidence that Russia hacked the servers.
They just wanted to make a buck.
It's it.
Really?
They wanted to make a buck, but they also didn't want to take accountability for losing that election. So, the declassified information, too, from National Security Advisor Ratcliffe. It shows, Brennan's notes. He's got Brennan's notes. So now
people tell me, oh, but you don't trust the intelligence agencies?
What?
Well, now they just declassified that intelligence agency. Just declassified it. So now I trust it. Now you're telling me not to trust it? Do you see how stupid and contradictory that is? Not to mention the fact that it's just a knee-jerk reaction of neo-McCarthyite smears. Like, that's all it is. And it's really shitty because you're painting Donald Trump as the innocent person here, which is, like, not something you want to do in an election year anyway. But it's I want to point out a lot of the criticisms that are coming from the left on Putin is his social issues regarding the LGBTQ community, regarding how his government is really totalitarian on free speech. What do you say to that?
Well, yeah, I'd like to know more about the free speech part and stuff. I haven't really dove into that because I know what the West tries to tell you. Now, we did talk to Sabota, too, about the whole homosexual thing. It's like, we understand that a lot of people are anti-Putin or can take the bait. The manufactured consent is because they think that Putin is just like, a civil, a human rights abuser of sorts, and that he, beats up gay people or jails them, whatnot, and stuff. When we talked about this stuff, it's not such true. Now, the way they won't allow a parade, they don't necessarily have the clubs in sight. You know what I'm saying? I don't think they'll have gay communities like us. But the thing that gets me a little bit pissed off is the fact is that I understand that might be important to you, but it's not the real issue and what's important when it comes to Russia. When it comes to Russia and geopolitics, there's one goal: don't go to war with them. Don't get shit blown up. Take care of our geopolitical issues. Let them get there. We were never always once. We didn't have gay rights.
It wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago as well. It was like 8
years ago.
We have to understand this. We have to take a geopolitical mindset, step out of it, and say, okay, listen, culturally, I might not like the way they do things. Now, first of all, we don't know as much because we're not over there, too. Mm-hmm. We only know what the West tells us, so we have to dive deep to get the real information. But we might not like what's going over there, but we can't really judge that or have a relationship based upon their cultural differences than ours. You know what I'm saying? Human rights abuses is one thing. We can step in. We can say, hey, no. But, cultural differences in the way they handle things, we might look at them as bad. And I know a lot of progressives will be like, hell no, Putin's awful when it comes to homosexuality.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with that because I think it's a human rights abuse to not let people live a normal life for their sexual orientation. Now, I don't think you should use that excuse to promote neo-McCarthyism and to promote more war with Russia. I don't think that's our business. I mean, I think at a certain point we have to step back and let the Russians handle Russia. And at a certain point, I feel like a lot of the left uses those excuses to vilify Putin, not saying that they're not important and not saying that some of it isn't abuse, but they use that mechanism to foment this hatred and this antagonism towards Russia, which eventually will and can and has escalated into confrontational foreign policy. The two really, it's just weaponized, is what I'm saying. It's the liberals weaponize that, especially because they weaponize only social issues to really get things done. And so, like, to me, it's not okay that somebody like Putin is doing that. If he is doing that, I can't say that I know enough to say he is or he isn't, but what I can say is that it needs to stop being weaponized to use this sort of like anti-Russia propaganda, because if the United States is creating this McCarthyism and is creating these stories around Russia, I don't put it past them to also exaggerate the claims that are being made regarding how people live in Russia. So
yeah, I we're a little bit different on that one, because like I said, I kind of weigh it out and whatnot, and I understand how people can, once again, I'm a compassionate person. I want everybody to be loved and be freed, what I'm saying, stuff like that. But when I told you the other day when I was speaking, I was like, well, who do you think, like, who's bombed more gay people around the globe, United States or Russia? We bomb 40,000 people every year. There are some gay people who die in that. You know what I'm saying? There are some people of all races, color, and creed.
Means. I mean,
I know that, but
you're
once
thinking
again,
big picture. That doesn't, change the fact of what's going on.
That does, to me, it weighs a lot more. Geopolitically, I want to keep us away from bombs. I want to keep us out of proxy wars. Us killing each other. It has a lot more weight. We can't force our ways upon everybody else. We have to let them figure it out for themselves. If we show a peace-loving kind of mentality, then their ideology for homosexuality and the LGBT community will probably open up more if we show more compassion. But if we start starving people out and bombing people and killing people, who are to say anything? About the way they.
That's what I'm
their
saying. You can't use it as an excuse to continue your attacks against Russia, but you also can't dismiss it as a non-issue. I just don't think it's our issue.
Yeah.
I think it's their issue.
Exactly. And they put that issue, once again, it's like, well, this is that issue right here, and you're talking about actual, warfare and Cold War and NATO and stuff. This is a lot higher than that right now. Unfortunately, I don't want to sound insensitive. I don't want to, just push over it and gloss over it. But the main issue is, let's stay out of war with Russia because they have nukes. And I think that's the most important thing. You put this in here the other day?
Hold on.
Did we miss one?
Okay, yeah. So Biden has been tokenizing Latinos and Black people for a very long time.
His whole career.
And the Democratic Party in general, right? The Democratic Party in general can only tokenize them and not do anything for them. So I wanted to post two things. One was Niko's status on that he posted this that resonates with a lot of what's going on. He said the hardest part about being a Black man in the quote progressive movement is that every day I have to listen to people pretend to care about the issues most affecting us to get a moral high ground on their political adversaries, knowing that they don't really give a shit about us. That is essentially a lot of people who have come at me or at a lot of us who are not voting for Joe Biden, saying you don't care about people of color, you don't care about immigrants. This is an example of how that is completely just horrible to use. And then a side-by-side comparison to how they do it. Because Sarcasm Stardust posted, this is disgusting. Politicizing these deaths
this is pretty disgusting.
To gaslight for Captain Crime Bill is fucking sick. And it is. Because look at what Michael Moore posted. He said, they are all on our ballot this year, okay? And you have Breonna Taylor, Philando Castile, George Floyd, Stephen Clark, Eric Garner. All of these people, okay, are their names of people who have been killed by the police in a very unjust way. Now, Joe Biden has literally said the same things that Trump has said regarding the protests. He'll start out by saying, yeah, we support peaceful protests, but we don't support riot and looting, and the people will be prosecuted, and blah, blah, blah. Joe Biden has also made VP Kamala Harris, who is the top cop, who's supported by so many police unions and the law enforcement. So it's interesting to me. They can't really oppose Trump on that. So they're trying to kind of do both. And it's really disingenuous. And when Michael Moore is using these dead Black Americans as fodder for political acumen, it's just disgusting.
It's pretty bad.
It is literally the epitome of what the Democratic Party does. They use people of color for votes, and they don't do anything for them, because the way to do things for them is to literally listen. Oh, we're not defunding the police. No, we're not going to give you money. We're not going to fix the situation, the economic situation that helps all working people, which is primarily a lot of people of color. So you're not going to address those situations. It's the same bullshit as the latte feminist movement that will give you like fancy hotels with RGB on the wall and golden tampons, but won't do anything to help working class women or the poor, who are mostly women. Like it's just this platitudes and no action, and it's really, I think a lot of us are sick and tired of seeing it. It's worse to me than often, like, if a Republican says, yeah, like, that those people are horrible and thugs, I can attack that, and I know that they're saying they're thugs, but you are weaponizing these dead kids, these dead men and women, to get political points.
Yeah, and you talk about the platitudes, and I always keep on talking about the policy, and I've yet to have anybody tell me, and you see the way they're just exploiting the situation right here. It's disgusting. And you talk about the way I always say, hey, well, what about the 1994 crime bill? You want to talk about racism? You want to talk about systemic racism? You want to talk about criminal justice?
Oh, but that was so many years ago.
Oh, it's not. Yeah, that's it. But and they don't even understand what's in that bill and what it really does and how it really punished people of color. I talk about that one provision that it had all these Pell Grants, okay, that all these prisoners had across the country, so they can get a welding degree, they can get a plumbing degree, they can get some type of trade or whatnot, or just education, a college degree, whatnot. Well, in the 1994 crime bill, it pulled away those grants from those prisoners all across the country. Those programs folded overnight. That was Joe Biden who wrote that, and that, to me, is one of the most racist bills out there right now. So the fact that you always say, well, you're privileged if you don't vote for if you don't vote for Joe Biden, but don't you know his policies? Don't you know how racist they are? So what do you just want to use their name and whatnot? You want to go out there and say, oh, I'm against racism, vote for Joe Biden. How do you figure if you're not going to even look at his crime bill? And there's so many other bills. We could start talking about the Patriot Act, the first guy to talk about building a fence. It's disgusting, and they have been tokenizing, and this is the worst candidate, fam, that they could have put up when it comes to social issue, racial issues, criminal justice.
He's a Republican.
That's it.
It's two Republicans competing on who's the best Republican. I mean, that's what this race has turned into. And Andrew Cuomo is another one.
Oh, your boy.
That has been kind of catered by reportedly Biden's campaign for a possibility of being the attorney general pick, which would make our just situation just much, much better. That would be just amazing. So they're convinced that Andrew Cuomo could be considered for Joe Biden's attorney general. And so Cuomo chairs the National Governors Association, and they're hearing that Cuomo's orbit tells Axios that the governor is being pushed for a job and that Biden would consider him based on their long friendship. And the attorney general, of course, would be one of the most politically powerful, I think, positions, and it would be definitely high profile. But to me, an attorney general is about, the law, and it has a lot of power on their hands. This would be horrible. Yeah, if Biden were to somehow win, this would be absolutely horrible. And people want to pretend that voting for Joe Biden is going to give you somehow progressivism. I don't know why you would think that, but they do, that it's going to be a little bit better than Trump. But it's Andrew Cuomo?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah. It's kind of funny because I was the other day, Johnny, when I saw that, and I know we're going to get to it later in the show, the list of things. I'm like, we got to get out in front of Garcetti's house and get out there with these demands and stuff. But when I remember going out to one of the last protests in front of Garcetti's house, all these different groups were talking. And this one young lady named Sabrina talked, and she says, you know what they are, those cops over there? They're class traders. They are class traders. And I was like, wow, that's a good thing. I've never heard anybody say that in a speech. Well, Andrew Cuomo takes more money from billionaires, from the biggest billionaires in this world than any other politician. So you want to talk about the class trading that's going to go on?
Yeah.
When a lot of people insinuate that a lot of the laws that are in place are just for the rich to steal from the poor. Well, This is going to cement that. This is really going to laminate that. If you put a guy like Andrew Cuomo in there, watch out for the rich. They're going to be going into the pockets, and you, the poor, will pay. This is an awful selection, fam. This is an awful selection.
Well, and it's not confirmed. Andrew Cuomo has denied it, but I just want to say that the AG would also be responsible for things dealing with police brutality and all of the issues going on, racism, systemic racism, all these things. Andrew Cuomo hasn't been good on that at all. I mean, at all. So it's just a very sad state of affairs when the Democratic Party just continues to prove us right in how bad we think they are, because that's all they're doing. Like we tell you guys that it doesn't matter if you vote for Trump or Biden, because it's the same. They're part of the same oligarchy. Yeah. It's so thinking that the black community and that the minority community are going to somehow be better under Biden. Well, they're just showing you that's not necessarily the case at all, especially the working class people as well. Because of what Pasta said, Andrew Cuomo's ties to billionaire oligarchs.
Yeah, and you talk about listen, we live in California. Go out to New York. These are the two biggest super Democratic-controlled Congresses that they have, and a super majority of Democrats over there. There's homeless people under every single bridge. There's homeless people on every single bridge. The Democrats don't give a damn about you. They just act like they do because they got nothing else to give you. Their policies are awful. They're in bed with corporations, and they're going to screw you constantly. And Andrew Cuomo is not a good choice. I mean, just look at the homeless population in New York and California, and that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Right? They got a supermajority in here.
And he's reportedly worse. He reportedly handled the coronavirus crisis worse than Gavin Newsom. So that just tells you the kind of Democrats that.
Well, once again, they didn't care about any economic solutions to help you out.
Zero.
They never pushed for anything. They never did anything to make things, these little Band-Aid solutions like, okay, well, restaurants can't open up indoors. Let's give them a piece of the street. So if you give them 3 tables and then they lose 30, is that going to really help them out?
Right.
That's not a good solution, especially with the profit margin in restaurants, which is so small, and that's a big part of our economy. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, they picked winners and losers once again. They gave all this money to the corporations while giving nobody money down below. And once again, there's no surprise, fam. Do you have anything else to say about this?
I just said just to lead up into the next topic, that the Democratic Party loses the small business class when they should have that. They should have those people supporting them. They lose them because of the way they don't understand the difference and how to really tailor and help small businesses, because they're too busy helping out corporations. And the Republican Party, sure, they can afford to do that because that's their base. But the Democratic Party is supposed to rip from that and actually be for the workers, be for the small business owners. And instead, a lot of these small business owners vote Republican because they feel like the Republicans take care of them more, which is also false. But that is an opportunity for the Democrats to really go in there and say, no, we're going to fight for this. We're going to fight for that. You get more protections because of your small business. And that just didn't happen during the coronavirus crisis. In fact, the opposite happened, where the vast majority of people giving money right away, some which had to return it because of public outcry, were corporations.
Yeah, and everybody's saying you need to mitigate damage by voting for Joe Biden. You're just crazy. Why would you keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results? Now, the 50 richest Americans now worth more than the poorest, 165 million.
Yeah.
Bim, I don't even know if I want to get into the article. I just want to read the title again. 50 richest Americans now worth more than the poorest, 165 million. 50 versus 165, fam.
And you wonder why people say eat the rich, right? It's not just like, guys, like, this isn't about just me being a communist. This is about the fact that this is why capitalism and why the exploitation of the working class always leads to this. It always leads to this, especially in a system where it's not even run by presidents or Congress anymore. It's run entirely by corporations and lobbyists. That's all it's run by. Nobody is doing the work for us. They're supposed to be public servants, but they're corporate servants. So the problem is we don't even have a system of normal capitalism. But that doesn't even, it always leads to this because it's unfettered. The greed always gets to people. People want to make a buck, and then that's how this whole thing happens. Corporations get big. And did you want to go into this?
I just want to look at that list. If you go down below, Johnny, there's a list of like 10 of the. Keep going down a little bit more. Right there. Look at the list and look who's on it. It's no surprise to what's going on. Now we talk about let's start with the first one. The second one, Bill Gates. He's going to get the vaccine. When you think about the screwery, the fuckery that's going around with this whole, disease, and then you see Bill Gates is going to be the one pushing for the vaccine. It's very suspicious.
Yeah.
But Jeff Bezos, right? Okay. So now you couldn't go out and do anything. You couldn't go shop. You couldn't do anything. You had to depend on Amazon. But yet we see Amazon strikes going all around the country because this son of a bee won't pay his workers, fam, a living wage. They had a guillotine out in front of his house. I mean, at what point do we say no more? Do we say, let's stop this? How long is this runaway train going to go? Elon Musk, number 3, right? We'll coup who we want to coup. Right? Yeah. These are the people we got. Mark Zuckerberg. Let me sell your information to other third parties. I mean, this is what we are looking at, ladies and gentlemen. And the Democratic Party is in a line with a lot of these people. Bezos does not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know where Jeff Bezos is. So, I mean, it's just one of these things. When it comes to the economics, I think it is so important. I never want to dismiss the cultural differences, the social issues. They are important. But we need resources to live, and we're about to throw a bunch of people out in the streets. I don't know what's to come of this whole situation.
Every single economist is predicting this is going to be really, really bad. We're just getting started on what the economic downfall is going to be, and it's really, really sad. And did you want to read anything else from here? Because I have a picture I wanted to show.
No, go right into the picture.
Okay, so this picture right here, it says all that matters, and this is something you can't ignore. This is the share of the national income, and then versus on this axis, the years. And you can see that the majority of the top 1% of U.S., the wealth has grown, but the bottom 50% has absolutely declined. We have this vast gap, and that is as of 2015. As of now, trust me, it's even bigger. It's even bigger, especially after coronavirus. We are going to have our first trillionaires because of this. Trillionaires.
But 2008 through 2016, it was Barack Obama. We had to do better, right? Oh no! I'm sorry. Wait. So it doesn't matter which Democrat it is, does it? No. What's that? Yep,
yeah,
right there.
That was 2008.
And we're still going down. Remember, we elected him for change. He talked about having a federal bank. He talked about just equality, getting people money in their pockets, bread and butter solutions. And it just went the other way. As soon as he got in office, he got a list of who he can hire in his administration when it comes to economics. He hired Tim Geithner and Larry Saunders. Same people who caused this problem to make that spike go down years ago. You talk about Larry Saunders. He was around 1980 when he was pushing for dividends, which are you can bet against the stock. Yeah. And it was a big thing back then because Glass-Steagall was around. You couldn't do that kind of thing. And now it's just gone haywire. You can see that blue line has gone all the way down. The red line has gone all the way up. So this also lets me think to tell my older fams out there, my the parents and stuff who always say, well, you kids nowadays, you just got to work hard like we do. Like, no, this is systemic.
Doesn't matter
right
how
now.
hard we work.
The system is rigged.
The system is rigged, and it's rigged because it's rigged for us, but it's purposely rigged to function this way. This is how they want the system to function, because the more they encapsulate all the resources, the more people at the bottom fight each other for said resources, and the more racism, discrimination, and all these other things you have. Because when you don't have anything, it's really easy to get swayed that somebody else is to blame for it, and you end up blaming the wrong people instead of looking up. And that's why voting for Joe Biden or Donald Trump perpetuates that system, because you're expecting one of these to be your hero and save you from the top, and that's just not going to happen. The change will come from the bottom up, and the reality is that both of these two are rich. One's a millionaire, one's a billionaire. They have more in common with each other. They go to each other's weddings. They're all friends. You see Bush and the Obamas hug. I mean, this isn't anything new. They're all part of the same circle. You are not part of their circle. No matter how you feel one is better than the other, they don't give a shit about you. And thinking that they do is what keeps you enchained, because we are enchained in a way. We absolutely are. They've just made the prison look a lot more comfortable and a lot better.
Yeah. And by voting for Joe Biden, you're not mitigating damage or fighting against systemic racism.
You're extending that damage.
Exactly. That's exactly what you're doing. That's all I wanted to say. That's what you're doing, and it's time to say, hey, no more, stop. I'm not even telling you have to go vote for Donald Trump. I'm telling you, don't vote for either one of them.
Yeah.
I'm not. Fam, this is going to be a good point right now, because I think we're going to get into a little bit of, when I see the word imperialist or anti-imperialist, I think foreign policy.
Right.
Foreign policy.
So there's a divide going on, and I don't just see it on Twitter. I see it in real life. Mm-hmm. I see it with our friends. I see it all over the place. It's not just social media. It is right now, the Democratic Party is succeeding in one thing. It is succeeding in herding back progressives back into the party, when progressives should be all already in unison, pushing a third party and working together to do direct actions. But instead, they're making phone calls for Biden. Okay, so it's very clear lines have been drawn in the sand between those of us who are both leftists and anti-imperialists, willing to stand up to the security state and the military-industrial complex, and those of us who are fine with bombing the rest of the world as long as we get health care. Because there are a lot of the Demsoc left, or the Brooklyn left, or whatever the hell you want to call them. They're only left domestically. So yeah, let's get Medicare for all. Let's get a Green New Deal. But yeah, I don't care if the squad doesn't speak on Julian Assange. That's irrelevant to me. That who cares about free speech? Oh, that's a right-wing talking point. Or yeah, foreign policy. Yeah, no, like it's fine as long as yeah, okay, we shouldn't invade countries, but they don't know anything that we're talking about. They promote Russiagate. They say that Maduro is a brutal dictator, or they're okay with that. They talk so negatively still about Fidel Castro and all of these things that they're completely uneducated about. They don't know or care what sanctions are, etc. Right? And it's miseducation, it's empire education, but it's also like now it's a lot of people who have the opportunity to see, who have been explained these things, but they try to smear it as the only people talking about this are Tulsi supporters. Entirely false. The only people talking about this are right-wingers, and they don't know what's going on. You're not a leftist. This isn't about left or right. This is about being an anti-imperialist. Either you're an anti-imperialist or you're an imperialist. And the vast majority of our Congress are imperialists. In fact, if not, like, literally all of them. Because...
but they also too fall for that little sad story about what the story is. Like, we had this argument just recently. Somebody kind of went after us, talking about us, and they were like, Ilhan Omar, like, what about her? Like, she's actually a war refugee. You don't appreciate that? That's the American dream. It's like, dude, what about our policies? Why don't you talk about our policies? You want to put it up on the table and say she hasn't said anything about Julian Assange. She denied the Armenian Holocaust of sorts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She was like and that to me was like, okay, you can't step out of your old past and say I can make a difference between this, because who died over there for those Armenians? It was Orthodox Christian Jews. You know what I'm saying? And now you're talking against it. You won't even recognize them. You have this little love affair with Erdogan. And if you don't know anything about foreign policy, you don't know the fact that Erdogan is a piece of crap. This guy is trying to bring back the Ottoman Empire. He's caused problems. American lives have been lost because Erdogan. You know, what happened in Syria and what he did and the strings he pulled. But anyways, I don't want to get into it. It's the fact that they don't understand policy, and they look at the window trimmings, fam. What's up there, what's in front, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Oh, this is her story.
It's a desire.
Who cares about her policy?
It's a desire to feel good and feel better. That's like the desire that humans need to, like, it's not a bad thing to want to feel that way, but it becomes dangerous when you ignore the reality and the policy behind it, especially when you call yourself that you're anti-racist only in America, but screw the rest of black and brown people that are either being enslaved or bombed or killed or injured as a result of American foreign policy. So I'm of the belief, is what I said on the second tweet, that's the only other one I'm going to read from there, that there's no separation. Everything is connected. We need basic human rights like healthcare and education for all, a ban on fracking with a Green New Deal type of thing, but better than the Democratic version. plus ending wars and occupations abroad and civil liberty protections. There is nothing wrong with thinking like that. There's nothing wrong with saying the word civil liberties. There's nothing wrong with any of this. And that's where the Democrats have succeeded in maligning certain issues as partisan when they are actually not. If you are actually for progress, you should care about these issues because they are directly connected to everything that you care about. And Comrade Misty Putin also said there are lefties who are fine with imperialism so long as they get health care. Then there's the actual anti-imperialist left. That's the divide, and it's a big one.
I love that tweet right there. I gotta like that tweet. That's one of my favorites because that is the truth. You know what I'm saying? When people, the whole Tulsi thing, it was like, listen, it's not Tulsi, it's the issues. I want to be an anti-imperialist. I want to read this other one that was underneath. The greatest enemy of humanity is not COVID, but a virus whose very mention is banned in the West, imperialism. This is the virus of the rampant 19th century powered by a 21st century forces of guns, war, debt, plunder, poverty, and there is a vaccine, us. And so a lot of people completely dismiss imperialism, as you were saying. Yeah. Well, they think it was like that. It was the issues, and that's the fact is that they're just ignorant to that. Like I see a lot of my friends. I know a lot of the old school activists and stuff. They understand about Medicare for all, how important it is because it's in their face. They're out there. They're feeding people. They're dealing with homeless people, and I get it. But you can't look at one without the other. It's like what Ben Norton said when he's on the show. It's like they think they don't live in this world. You know what I'm saying? And the atrocities that our government is committing abroad is important to pay attention to. Plus, if we live on this kind of like capitalistic economic scale, where's all the money going? So much of the money and the resources going to what? To bomb and kill indigenous people in their own homeland, and you're not paying attention to it. You know what I'm saying? You have to pay attention to these things. I'm sorry, fam.
And the Julian Assange is another issue that we can point to that is completely ignored by a lot of this divide on I call them the pro-imperialist left because ultimately it is imperialism. And the Assange defense said it is dangerous to suggest that Assange's actions are somehow criminal rather than steps routinely taken by investigative journalists who communicate with confidential sources to receive classified information of public importance. It is not difficult to imagine how autocratic governments eager to undermine media scrutiny will use this indictment to punish such journalists. And Julian Assange, I wanted to point that out because Julian Assange is an issue that a lot of people completely have ignored on the left entirely. And the only people that are supporting Tulsi Gabbard's legislation, as we're going to point out in a minute, are Republicans. And this is really dangerous and sad. Catherine Rose Fisher posted, the U.S. military gunned down 2 journalists in cold blood in Iraq. Julian Assange was arrested for exposing this. He was arrested for exposing U.S. war crimes. AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. Will you stand with him or will you stay silent? And thus far, they have stayed entirely silent.
Diana Presley, she was missed that list. And then they gunned down 2 journalists, but they gunned down 4 other people that were with those 2 journalists. There was 6 people that were killed, and there was another young child that was hit in a car off to the side that a Marine had to pick up and try to save her life. A lot of people don't even talk about that, and that's what Julian Assange was exposing, those kind of things, these war crimes. And that was just one war crime we see, fam. So imagine, with our military budget and with our imperialism, where we're all over the globe, how stuff like that must happen on a regular basis at the hands of American imperialists.
And Christine Olivo for Congress has been talking about Assange. She's running for Congress, and she said ballot harvesting is a real issue that needs to be addressed. And that's another issue that people are saying is a right-wing talking point. She's in Florida District 24, and she is a working-class mom running for Congress and an advocate for UBI, Medicare for All, $15 minimum wage, and more. She's talked about foreign policy, and she's also addressed Julian Assange. She's the one person running for office that I've seen really address all of it right now, especially at a time where a lot of the Assange folks who are really active are trying to, get people to really talk about it, because when public officials or people running for office talk about it, it raises the awareness on the American psyche, and it also allows the discussion to become more common, so people do start paying attention.
Good point.
When they don't do that, then it just remains silent, and that's primarily what's happening.
I think people brush it off. They're like, nah. They just don't make it an important issue to them. It's not in front
to
of
them. It's just one guy, and they don't really know or care to know much about it, but it is not just one guy. It's press freedoms, it's the rule of law, it's protections for journalists, it's whistleblowers.
Yeah, if you can kill the messenger at any time, you can stop the messenger from coming forth with information. You can control whatever you want. I mean, the fact that you're just jailing him and nobody's saying nothing. I mean, the mainstream media has just been silent on it. It's disgusting. And he embarrassed them, but, you know.
And Ben Norton posted, reminder that political prisoner Julian Assange has also been held in solitary confinement to much of this year and a half. And the United Nations says solitary confinement for more than 15 days is torture. Assange has been tortured for more than a year. Yeah. This guy has been in solitary confinement for a year and a half. That is insane. What that does to people is it really, a lot of people who are in solitary confinement end up committing suicide after the fact, because you are human beings. You're supposed to be around people. Naturally, you're not supposed to be alone. Sunlight, people, you're supposed to have that. There's none of that happens in solitary confinement, and they're treating him worse than they would treat a serial killer. I mean, it's disgusting what's happening, and nearly nobody in the political spectrum except like 3 people are talking about it. Yep. So,
well, let me ask you a question when it comes to this, fam. Like, what's going to happen now? I mean, you have a candidate who does talk about these things, who says free Assange. We need to free, pardon Edward Snowden. We have to stop with these regime change wars. We have to get these fair elections. We need to watch out for our civil liberties. She's bastardized, demonized, and thrown out of the party. Is it going to ever happen in the Democratic Party again when they've set these boundaries that, hey, if you talk about these certain issues, if you talk about the secret empire, we're going to ostracize you and throw you out? So what's to happen on the left, especially when it comes to the establishment? You know what I'm saying? If they're never going to let the doors open again, are we going to ever have that person fighting for those freedoms on the left again? Where do they go?
I think it's all a ploy to get to not let it happen at all. I don't think the right is going to come in defense of civil liberties, in the sense that I think some people are taking advantage of this moment, because all this is doing is pushing people towards the right. It's pushing people who are like, the Democrats don't care about any of these things, so I'm going to go and work with the Republicans. And that is dangerous, because a lot of the it's all fascist. It's all of that. We need to combat it no matter what party fascism. You lay on that, no matter what party you stand on. And it's not going to come from the Democratic Party, and I don't think it's going to come from the Republican Party. Now, Tulsi's getting some support from Republicans, but I think it's a lot of libertarian-minded type of Republicans. It is. I don't think the vast majority of the Republican wing is going to support that either. So I think it's going to come from the independent-minded folks, the outside forces, and the real left, not the imperialist left. It's not going to come from the TYT folks. It's going to come from us and from the people, that are looking at foreign policy and all of these things. That's the push has to come from the alternative media, fighting a very big battle against the Goliath that is the mainstream media propaganda. That's where it's going to come from. It's not going to come, I think, from the government, because they stand to lose when we have protections on our civil liberties. They stand to lose so much, because if we get protections for whistleblowers, for journalists, they don't get to lie anymore. They don't. It's such a big deal. They don't get to put
their propaganda up on check and stuff like that. But let me ask you a question, fam.
Yeah.
The progressive left, the future left, isn't that more like that kind of TYT, progressive kind of Medicare for all, Green New Deal kind of mentality? Aren't they that make up the majority of the party? And how is that going to change if it's not going to let the door open for like the leftist?
I'm saying it's not going to come from the Democratic Party.
So you think it's outside that party then?
Oh yeah, that the Democratic Party will never let that happen. Neither will the Republican Party. Her bill, it's not getting the support it should be getting, and that tells you everything. That tells you that they're
ballot harvesting bill
by this, not just the ballot harvesting bill, the Assange bill, the Assange bill, the whistleblower bill, and the Edward Snowden bill.
No help.
None of them are getting any help or any support, even minimal support. They're not getting any of that, because I think it's a bipartisan support against Americans' freedoms. It's against civil liberties, because they stand to lose the moment we regain any of that. We are more under their control. They can continue lying and telling people stories about Russiagate. They can continue pretending that Joe Biden isn't the worst candidate in the world. They can continue promoting Donald Trump by talking crap about him, yet giving him all this airtime. They can continue vilifying the socialist things as completely unsuccessful. Bernie Sanders lost twice. Of course, nobody's ready for that. Nobody wants socialism in America. They can continue lying about all these things if they keep a hold on our civil liberties. And that's what a lot of the neo-progressive left doesn't realize, that this is actually directly targeting you.
Yeah,
it's targeting you.
Well, we bring it up the fact that now they're shutting down some of these Facebook pages, whatnot. Like we told you, like, hey man, you have to speak up. It's not good they shut down Alex Jones. Oh no, he's awful. He needs to go.
Same thing with QAnon.
Oh my God, you know what I'm saying? Oh, they need to go. And then all of a sudden, once they went for them, you said nothing. Now they're gonna come for you, and nobody's gonna say anything. But I do find it kind of disheartening to see the fact that, like, with all these bills out there, with the election integrity issues and stuff, especially from the Bernie Sanders progressives who got cheated twice, really badly in 2016 when WikiLeaks gave us the proof and stuff like that. That you guys are still concentrating on the fact that I don't want to say it's a fact, but the idea that what Tulsi Gabbard did to Ilhan Omar was, kind of like against Muslims of sorts. It was what's the word?
Well, because they had that anti-Muslim, because they had that idea before this happened. So the same people that were always attacking her and saying she's anti-Muslim were the same people that were saying, oh, look, she's anti-Muslim here. Yeah. Nothing has changed. I mean, the people that, and this isn't about Tulsi Gabbard. You don't have to like Tulsi Gabbard, and this is what irks me. You don't have to agree with her on everything to understand how important her bills are. And to understand the importance of what she has introduced. You don't have to be her supporter. And I've seen some people say this, like, hey, I don't even like Tulsi Gabbard, but what she supported is good. Yeah. Like, oh, okay, yeah, you can say that even if you don't. But the people that can't do that, it's because they're disingenuous. They have this vile hatred of this woman because she doesn't fit in a box, and they can't put her in a box, so they don't know what to do with her. Yeah. So they're like, well, she hasn't done, she didn't do this and blah blah blah. I mean, Elizabeth Warren isn't even vilified like Tulsi Gabbard was, and Elizabeth Warren is a huge reason why Bernie Sanders lost. Like he would have at least lasted longer had she not been in there. He might have even won if he could have unified with Bernie Sanders. Yeah. Like, no, that you guys were cheering for Elizabeth Warren, every single one of you who hates Tulsi Gabbard, and Elizabeth Warren is a corporate Democrat, as corporate as it gets. Yeah. And so there's just this really fascination and obsession with Tulsi Gabbard that clouds any sort of like ability to be like, okay, let's just look at policy. And it's not just with her. It's like looking at the rose-colored glasses of even what Bernie's doing now, excusing what he's doing now as something necessary, or it's, oh, he had a contract with the DNC. Bullshit. He doesn't have to do what he's fucking doing right now. And you guys are pretending that it's okay just because it's Bernie, and it's not. Yeah, and yesterday when I posted something about Bernie, and we're going to get into that, asking money, people fucking went off on me. And it's like, well, you can't hold people accountable, then what the hell are you doing, man? Yeah. It
sucks because it seems like the establishment knows how to trigger people and move people, and they throw it out there, people. And then you buy it. You get manipulated by the establishment with the Islamophobia thing, which not saying that's not an issue and stuff like, but in this particular case, it's not. Our elections were the situation. The most important thing we deal with when it comes to ballot harvesting is making sure we have integrity for our elections, and we should be concentrating on that, especially when they screwed your guy in 2016, and now you're actually doing their work for them. It didn't take you long to do so. And talking about elections, we have Raji Rob over here. Alarming news in the LA Times and the Daily News shows a major disaster. Election integrity and fraud is a big public issue. Monopoly of one of the company for printing and storage of ballots must end. We talk about this all the time. K&H, right, Johnny? What's going on? It's like, listen, we need a deep dive. Taxpayers, $300 million spent on unreliable vote count machines must be refunded. The American people must be trusted, hired, and handsomely paid for a publicly telecast. What's that? Thank you. Manual vote count with mask and social distancing in our elections. Let's help fund our people and defeat fraud. Listen, we need to have a serious conversation about when it's to be done. You know what I'm saying? Our elections are crazy. It's crap. You talk about systemic issues within our elections.
And they've been crap.
They've been crap for a long time. The tabulation machines are flawed. Proprietary software, so the way they count them, they can do anything. Our elections itself, fam, 7-hour lines, 6-hour lines, flawed. And the absentee ballot thing, where everybody's just repeating what the Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats say. There's been no issue with voter fraud. It's not voter fraud. It's election fraud. It's election rigging. They with the absentee ballots and with our mail-in votings. whoever has the contract, the friendly contract, can stuff the ballot box.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? There's no security in these elections. So we need to fix everything. So when you talk about ballot harvesting, it gets the wheels turning.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And you start getting to a place where you need to get. Go ahead.
And Grumpy Bernie Sanders said the only people to co-sponsor Tulsi Gabbard's resolution to drop all charges against Julian Assange and Edward Snowden are Thomas Massie and Matt Gaetz, respectively. Both are Republicans. What the hell is going on? Is the GOP becoming more anti-imperialist than Democrats? And add to the fact that Donald Trump is the first president in decades who hasn't started any new wars since taking office so far. Now, I'm not going to give credit to. I'm not going to pretend that the Republicans are somehow anti-imperialist, because they're not. I'm not going to fall for that. I think this is all part to really not have any action on it and to really get people back into the right, because the Democratic Party's priority isn't to win. They'd rather lose and at least keep the status quo, even if it moves towards the right, because they stand to lose if a progressive gets elected. That's why they put all their effort to defeat Bernie Sanders and any sort of progressive that could have gotten in. Why do you think they smeared Tulsi Gabbard so much? Because they don't want these ideas and people to wake up to become reality. If they succeed in that, it's fine if they lose. But at least the status quo is kept intact. At least they're still making money. At least all of this fundraising can happen. But if a progressive wins, forget it. It's game over for them. So that's how they keep this going. And so the reality is, I don't really think of this as I think it's a partisan attack on our civil liberties, because even just two Republicans are, it's just not enough. It's just not enough. And again, it's people like Thomas Massie who are more libertarian-minded Republicans. It's not the Tea Party Republicans.
Not at all. Well, I mean, some of them, like Gates, I think can be considered a Tea Party
probably.
Republican
He's
of
like
sorts,
the one.
Libertarian-minded people. But you are right, fam. The majority of the neocons and the Republicans in the Congress are very neoconservative. The Liz Cheneys, and she got all the Democrats in line in the House. They marched with her and stood with her when it came to stopping Rand Paul's votes to get rid of to end the Afghani war. So there is force. It's like these independent-minded thinking people within the right now. We have one on the left, but she's almost out. In Tulsi Gabbard. By the way, Reeve Barker, I'm just going to read it real quick, says Whitney Webb says the U.S., UK, meaning their governments, have their next journalist lined up for the Assange treatment. Did not specify. Fam, I hope we're not on that list.
I don't think so.
I think we'll be okay.
Okay, and foreign policy-wise, I just wanted to point out something. That American exceptionalism is thinking that a vote for Biden helps immigrants and people of color, when the warmonger who was strongly for the Iraq war, which killed over 2 million Iraqis, will continue droning on wars abroad. But you're not on the receiving end of the bomb, so it's not important to you. And that's just all I wanted to read from that, because that is American exceptionalism. You don't care about people of color abroad. You only say that you care about them, and that's why you're voting for Joe Biden domestically. But other than that, you don't give a shit about them. And let me read this one from Nicole Alexander Fisher. Iran is going through its third wave of coronavirus. They have hit a record number of deaths and infections in the past 48 hours. And only 2 days ago, the United States decided to impose the harshest sanctions on Iran, causing severe shortages in medicine and supplies. Vile. So while we are talking about, defending poor people, defending minorities and stuff, and the Democratic Party is doing none of that either, the Republican Party is doing none of that either, they're both okay with sanctioning Iranians in the middle of a coronavirus and their third wave of coronavirus, and yet we pretend that voting for Joe Biden is going to fix this.
He's not. And the fact that people on the left are ignoring this, whatnot, and then we talk about this foreign policy issues and stuff. Sanctions kill poor people.
Yep.
The poorest of poor. If you could think about all those people that you're helping out in the street over there right now that are homeless, that can't eat, and all those things you do out there, well, that's who sanctions affect the most. So when they slap sanctions on a country, those same people that you're taking, care of here at home are the same people who are being, just destroyed abroad and being sent to to starve without medication, the proper medication. It's disgusting, and we need to pick up on that stuff, and the left needs to speak up. Go ahead, fam.
And this anarcho Bitulus said, I don't like Tulsi, but she's right on whistleblowers and the only one in Congress with the ovaries to put forward legislation on press freedom that would literally affect just how authoritarian our government can get. Squad, hello, squad.
She's got the ovaries,
I mean, she does have the ovaries. And I wanted to talk about the Lincoln Project, fam, because the Lincoln Project, I kind of mentioned it with Ron on Friday. They're trying to pretend they're progressive, and progressives sometimes fall for it. Ilhan Omar retweeted them, and I didn't really see the outrage of retweeting
Project Veritas, but then you can go to Lincoln Project. But hey, listen, one of the head of the Lincoln Projects was on TYT the other day too, as well.
Exactly, that's what we talked about on the thing. He said the real resistance is Syria, Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, Palestine, Russia, China, and Venezuela. Not a bunch of war criminal neocons called the Lincoln Project, and this is of course Richie. And he said, I would also add anyone who is engaged in the struggle against imperialism and neocolonialism, for there are so many groups and nations still fighting for their freedom from the same powers. And the United States, of course, is this power that has continuously infringed upon everybody else.
Good tweet, Dick.
Good tweet, Dick. Peter Dow actually posted this, and this is a nice reminder of normalizing extremists. He said, if you ever wondered how right-wing extremism was normalized, look no further than the so-called liberal media.
Wow.
Here's the New York Times positioning hashtag Amy Coney Barrett as the new conservative rooted in faith instead of hashtag Handmaid's Tale radical. So this is the New York Times positioning her, who now they're all like against her now because it's, Trump. They're saying rooted in faith, Amy Coney Barrett represents a new conservatism. And they paint her as in a positive light. But of course, when it's politically convenient, they're gonna, shift, even though they're really not shifting. We all know this. And then there's a quasi-imperialist left, fam. The quasi-imperialist left who, This is what I had a problem with, and a lot of people had a problem with my post.
All right, let's talk about this, because this is the finances. A lot of people talked about this with the way Bernie exited, and some of you people even pointed out the Tulsi, people pointed out the way she kind of refunded the checks. But where was the money going for Bernie down the road? You know what I'm saying? Why was he doing it? So
I don't know. Multiple people have said that they didn't receive their money back when they asked for it. So I don't know. Some people said they did. Bernie Sanders is raising money from his working class supporters and risking his life to campaign for a rich warmonger. Is the last bit of fact proving that the Democratic Party cannot be reformed and must be destroyed. So this is a message I got from Bernie, and Johnny got it, and a bunch of people got it. Important message from Team Bernie. Bernie is asking for a huge number of donations in the next 30 minutes. Tell them travel the country and campaign to beat Trump and elect a progressive Congress. Time is running out. We're tracking donations at this link. Okay, he doesn't outright say for Joe Biden, but we have seen him in Joe Biden campaign events. And also he says to beat Trump. Obviously, if you're in the Democratic Party, you're pushing Biden. And to elect progressives. A lot of my friends who are involved in organizations have said that the progressives that Bernie's endorsing aren't progressives at all. They're just Democrats up and down, versus Republicans and stuff like that. That's all it is. And so why are we asking, why is it acceptable that even if you respect Bernie, even if you give him credit for waking you up, etc., just like I do, why is this acceptable? Why is it not okay to say, hey, this is a really bad idea? Why are we asking working class people to give Bernie money to go campaign for Joe Biden? Why doesn't Joe Biden ask his billionaire friends for money? Why aren't they paying for Bernie Sanders to do this out of their pocket? Why is Bernie Sanders having to raise money from his fucking poor supporters to go and campaign for this fucking warmonger?
And all the dark money that Joe Biden has raised has been almost twice as much as Donald Trump and stuff, and all these big
billionaires. Not just Bernie, fam.
Yeah, it's terrible. Fam, what is your thought about this too right now? Because I saw somebody kind of arguing. I was looking at one of your tweets and I was reading the thread, and this whole thing about what you say to elect a progressive Congress.
Yeah.
I really want to make a point about this right now, because I saw a forum, we were talking about it, had some great progressive names on there, but then it just had some Democrats on there, left one particular progressive out. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to talk about it too deeply right now until we get more information on it. But it had all these other people like Maxine Waters on it, Judy Chu, Ted Lieu, Cisneros. And I was like, well, why are these people on there and whatnot? Well, they're just running against Republicans. I say, to me, that's not progressive.
No.
To me, that's not progressive when you say, I'm just going to pick an establishment Democrat because he's running against a Republican.
Yeah.
It should be a no choice. Like, hey, if you're going to be an establishment Democrat, I don't have to necessarily go vote for the Republican, but I'm not voting for you. If you're not giving the progressives anything, I'm not voting for you. Yeah. There are no real true progressives that he's out there supporting that we know of that are going to get on the ballot and make a serious change, fam. No. I mean, we talked about this last time in 2016 with some of the people he supported. It was really, really it's disheartening. And they're still doing it again.
It's worse now.
And the whole thing about it is the person that they left off, it was because of comments or an alignment with somebody else. And I said, do you understand that Maxine Waters' policies and her Russiagating is way worse than what this woman's rhetoric is that you're leaving off the ballot.
Yeah, because
just because she's standing there. When it comes to, we have to look at policies above everything else.
No, they look at insults now because the California Democratic Party is trying to outlaw insults.
Yeah.
So that just tells you how they are. And Craig Pasta Jardula said about Cenk Uygur.
You're such a once. Should I read his? Well, Cenk Uygur put 62% of Americans say they don't trust what the real Donald Trump has to say about the coronavirus, but only 53% say they are voting for Joe Biden. So that means that there are 9% of voters who know Trump can't be trusted on life or death issues, but are still considering voting for him. You know, fam, when I started seeing the numbers, I was like, this douchebag. Like, I don't even want to pay attention. He's like kind of like cherry picking numbers and stuff.
Right.
Like, who cares? What are you talking about here, Cenk? And I put, you're such a one-sided, hypocritical douchebag. Hypocritical douchebag. It's beyond obvious at this point that Katzenberg's check has you in check. Thanks for providing the opportunity for real indie media to shine with your intense bootlicking. The establishment has you on a tight leash. I want to put like leash, but somebody says, well, he's on a leash too as well. That check only lasts for so long, Pasta. So through your error, you were kind of right, but they do have him on a tight leash. And, you know, this is the thing. There's no amount of fugazi number juggling you can do that's going to make Joe Biden look any better than Donald Trump.
Well, and not to mention the fact that it's freaking arrogant to think that these people deserve their vote. Yeah. Like that you have their vote no matter what. Like you don't. So Naomi Klein is an environmentalist that I've always admired, but she's of course taken the whole we got to get Trump out of office. And she said Kamala Harris said Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. And she said, actually, we are going to make him do it.
Yeah.
To borrow a phrase from FDR, just like movements made Obama Biden stop the the Keystone Pipeline and the DAPL pipeline. It's too bad we have to waste energy on it when we should be focused on a Green New Deal, but we'll make them do both because there is no choice. You can't make him do anything when he doesn't work for you. He literally, it's beyond naive. He works for corporations. I don't know how many times we have to tell you this. Why do you guys think that you can push Biden left once he's in office when historically politicians move to the right once they're in office? If you're going to push them on anything, it would be now. But they're not giving you shit now. So why the fuck do you think you can push them once they're in office? Yeah. Once he's in office, he's going to be like, okay, we got it. We got the power. Bye. Yeah. And they're not going to do shit for you. And you're just going to sit back and take it because the Democratic Party and the neo-progressive left have no spine at all whatsoever.
Yeah. It's funny, too, because they get you to do... listen, as a Bernie Sanders progressive, a lot of the people I know that your two main issues were what? Green New Deal, Medicare for All, right? Medicare for All above everything. He said he's going to veto it in the middle of a pandemic. And right now, they go out of their way to point out time and time again, we're not banning fracking. We're not banning fracking. We're not banning fracking. You guys were just saying we're going to push Joe Biden. He's, before even the election, he's moving further to the right. So...
And I just posted this about Ilhan Omar because she is posting about, putting down symbols honoring perpetrators and oppressors in Minnesota and bringing awareness to those who have been silenced. But it's really interesting. She's talking about survivors of sexual violence, but she's completely ignoring Julian Assange. And I just wanted to point that out again because a lot of people have been asking her, are you going to speak about Epstein? Are you going to talk about Julian Assange? Are you going to talk about the resolutions? I mean, these are in her comments. She's seen them. She's seen them. So as AOC,
well,
they've
she
seen
responds
them.
back to them.
They're not gonna do it. Yeah. It's all about symbolic platitudes. Again, why is this squad who was there to oppose the Democratic Party becoming that establishment instead of opposing them? I don't know, but it's unacceptable, and people should be having to hold them accountable because I don't have to wait 5-10 years to call them out for it when they run for president, etc. And then it's too late by then. Because then we're going to have the next freaking Barack Obama. Yeah. The next freaking imperialist.
How do you say that last tweet and then go vote for Joe Biden? I don't get... You're talking about, you know what I'm saying?
Sexual assault. That's another thing. Yeah. Sexual assault. Let's pretend that Joe Biden doesn't have multiple accusations of sexual assault.
Yeah, well, he's just got picture after picture of him, touching little girls, feeling up little girls and stuff. I saw that. Did you see the Halloween outfit you can get? Where, it's Joe Biden on your back and, it's like, he's over there touching you like this.
That's disgusting.
There's a new Halloween outfit out there. I was laughing my ass about it. Fam, let's talk about one of my favorite journalists, one of my favorite guys, Medhurst. Love this guy.
I thought you were
Medi for president.
So Max Blumenthal said from Sirius, what is it? No, it's I don't know, tete-a-tete, I think, with world leaders on an international news network to puff pieces with hashtag resistance Insta celebs on MSDNC. Medi has come a long way. Great to see years of calculated left punching finally pay off. Yeah, and that's all it was. He would go, he would take his time, and he has been talking. Look what he's talking about. And he's talking about TikTok and pop songs and dance videos. And in the final view of Trump, let me do that. Let me do it to this crazy president. And they're talking about TikTok and Donald Trump in an effort to make fun of Trump. That's where Mehdi Hassan has gone to. From actually being a decent journalist and writing about things that are of importance, like Max Blumenthal said, he's come a long way into being this corporate hack, and it's really sad. I don't even want to play the video, but it's just really...
Can we play it?
No.
It's not worth it?
No.
All right.
We're kind of short on time.
Let's talk about AOC and Warren, because that's
okay,
the dream
so
team
I
right
just
over
wanted
there, fam.
to put this out with Elizabeth Warren and AOC working together. She'll work with Elizabeth Warren, but she won't work with, like, Tulsi Gabbard. Here's the New Yorker. At the New York Fest, AOC and Warren discussed the need to address climate change, how young people's politics are being shaped by the tumult of 2020, and what happens if President Trump refuses to accept the election results. Fear-mongering yet again.
Okay, yeah. Can we say this? Listen, it was the Democrats who refused to accept the results. That's what Obamagate was. They had a soft coup that went after a duly elected president. They went after, it's a right-wing talking point. No, we only have the declassified information. We have Brennan's notes. We have testimony. And Biden knew, too, as well. We see what they did to George Flynn. Whether you like George Flynn or not, you don't do those things. You don't use the intelligence department and the FBI to go after your political rivals. What they did was treason, and it's disgusting. So when you keep on saying this whole rhetoric, like, he won't accept the results, wait, what about the Democrats? They didn't want to accept the results. And how do you say climate change and then say go vote for Joe Biden? He's screaming. He's screaming we will not ban fracking. He took fracking money to begin with. He did shit at Standing Rock when those people were getting their heads bunched in. He didn't say a goddamn word. Now all of a sudden, I mean, the guy is going out of his way to saying, I'm not going to ban fracking. I'm not going to ban fracking. Okay, so if there's a choice between a Republican and a Republican, people are going to pick the real Republican. End of story.
Yep, I 100% fam.
It's and AOC is just sucks. They just sucks.
They're just fear mongering right now, and working with somebody like Elizabeth Warren is just like, fine, work with her. But if you're going to work with her, work with everybody equally, pushing actual bills that are out there.
Work on the issues.
She's not working on any bills. They're just telling you, we need this, we need that. We know. What are you guys doing about it? We're not doing anything. Okay.
Go vote for Joe Biden. He's my friend. The fake lefties won't try to push him left anyways. They'll just hit the snooze button for 4 years until the next even worse Trump snaps them awake. That's the big sleep. You know, we can't afford a big sleep part 2. Freedom Now, Kat Terrell. By the way, that super chat contribution, the first one, we have one from Kat Terrell. This one was from the Talshire. The Talshire. The Talshire? All right, nobody wants to correct me? Forget about it. Bella Lou, thank you for the super chat contribution. Always appreciate it on the couch. Oregon here. We love you. Go Ducks. Just got my voting info. Disappointed that Gloria La Riva isn't on the ballot. Surprised that Dario Hunter is as Progressive Party candidates. Well, you know what I'm saying? He had some inroads to get on the ballot when it came to Oregon, and he got screwed in that area with the Green Party. That's why I'm like, we'll never support Howie Hawkins. Not just that he stinks on policy and he's just all over the place. He's a Russiagator and stuff like that. But their elections were corrupt. There was a lot of shit going on. They never addressed them. And I'm sorry, but he got lost in the sauce. Jackie Pagal, thank you for the super chat contribution.
Jackie.
Always appreciate it on the couch. My husband Craig says, look for Tulsi to run for governor of Hawaii in 2022.
That it?
That's it. That's all the super chats, Johnny. Let's get started. I'll read the other Emble Fateh one after.
I'll just do it real quick.
Emble Fateh. Or Embled Fate. Thank you for the super chat contribution. Always appreciate it on the couch. Can you guys do a documentary on the history of McCarthyism? What does IK stand for?
I know.
I know it's dumb,
okay,
but
boomer.
At this point, I think it's the most important to remind people they called MLK a red.
Of course, they called the best people.
Yeah, I mean, they do that all the time. You know what I'm saying? There's Good Morning, Good Evening, and Good Night. I watched that whole movie. What was it called? They made it a couple years ago. But anyways, it's a great movie talking about the McCarthyites. Now it's the left that's doing it. It's the Democrats that are doing it. Crazy.
Let's get to Johnny's video.
Christopher Doby, one more super chat contribution. Always appreciate on the couch. I do believe if we're ever going to get ahead of this, we need to understand economics. Suggest interviewing Professor Stephen Keen for grounding. Johnny, get into it before another super chat contribution comes up.
Yeah, so the other day, 2 days ago, there was, the little Dance for Black Lives. Here's some footage I got, It was a nice thing. There was a lot of bubbles. People wearing masks. There's Jasmine Richards Abdullah. They did this out front of Garcetti's house. It's right down the street over there to the right. And it was interesting. I got a lot of people out there. It was like 200 people out there.
Who is that over there on the right?
That's
Gloria
Gloria
Jones over there dancing. And I'm not playing the music because, it get copyright.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's what it looked like. There's bubbles everywhere. And, they had their 10 demands, fam. You posted that on our Instagram. If you're not following our Instagram.
I shared this one, too. I shared it on Twitter.
A lot of stuff is on Instagram as well as Twitter. So let's just listen to their 10 demands real quick.
This is awesome, by the way.
Here are our demands.
Hey, fam. Rox already mentioned our first demand, which is to end qualified immunity. Right now, it is almost impossible to sue a cop if they brutalize someone or kill them, and that needs to change. Our second demand is to pay all civil settlements from law enforcement pensions. Because as of now, we're paying double. We pay for their pensions, and then we pay for these settlements. I have a feeling that they would think twice about killing a black man if that money for that settlement was coming out of their pocket. Fuck that is right. Our third demand is nonviolent response to nonviolent 911 calls. So right now, we have police that are going to mental health calls and they have no clue what they're doing. They don't have the training for it. And people are dying and getting injured and getting arrested because of it. We have people with training to deal with these things, so they should be dealing with them. Our fourth demand is an independent agency to investigate police brutality. I mean, right now, Internal Affairs deals with all investigations, and they're cops. Those are their brothers. They have the thin blue line, and there's no way that they are taking this as seriously as they should. Whereas if we had an independent agency that is not made up of current or former cops investigating this shit, we'd actually get fair outcomes. Our fifth demand is independent prosecutors. Again, right now, the same DAs that are prosecuting cops have to work with them on other cases. There's no way that they can be objective when they're trying to prosecute them because they know that they need them later on. 6, minimum education requirements. So, I bet most of you don't know this. To be a sheriff, you don't even need a college degree. You just basically need to be 20 years old and have a GED. And yet, we're expecting them to deal with complex problems that they're just not ready to deal with. So not only do they need to have a minimum degree, but we want to make sure that it's in one of the following subjects: criminal justice, sociology, psychology, or political science, so that they actually know how to deal with people and have some understanding of human nature. Number 7, expand training for law enforcement. Right now, as we very well know, they have no idea how to deal with anyone with mental health issues. They don't really have any good de-escalation training, and they need it. Nope. Number 8, our final demand is enforce LAPD, LASD, and LAFD wearing masks at all times. Because as we know, COVID spreads when you're not wearing a mask. And I see a whole lot of cops and sheriffs out there not wearing a fucking mask. And I don't know about you, but the last thing I want is to get fucking COVID from a sheriff or a cop when they're trying to fucking arrest me.
Johnny, could you put up the list real quick? Do you have something that has a list?
Thoughts on that? On those demands?
I mean, I agree with pretty much everything. I mean, I think the mask thing is right now, obviously, and I think people feel safe. I think it's hypocritical because I've seen a lot of the cops not wear it, and then they can literally go after you for not wearing your mask. So it's more of like a, like a standard of equality there with that.
When you put this up, John, I sent this to my friend because I had a friend of mine in Florida, really, pretty nuanced guy on the right, Republican guy. And he would say, well, what do these protesters want? And I was like, look what they want. Look at this here now. But it's very interesting, and I love this list. There's a few things I don't like on the list, or we have to figure it out. But I asked my sister, and I'm curious to you guys, if you had to pick 2 things on that list of 8, which 2 would you pick? In other words, if there was some type of compromisation where, lawmakers said, well, you get to pick 2 of these, which 2 would you pick, John? And which 2 would you pick, Fee? I hit my sister with this question, and she was like really looking at this and thinking about this. Now, you know me, guys, right? Number 1, of course, I'm going to go number 3 is my most important thing. I've said this before on the show. Establish an independent agency to preside over investigation of police misconduct and all law enforcement-based agencies. Like, because the fact that you can investigate yourself, it's like, hold on a second, I'm going to go over here and see what I did wrong. Okay, fam, we're okay. I told myself, bad boy, and that's it. I mean, that's the mentality when you have internal affairs, your police officers investigating police officers. That's no bueno. My number 2 would be number 2. Because I believe, and I believe that we should have like some form of like doctors, psychiatrists that are armed themselves as well. But they'll be less likely to use it if they can vocalize and talk their way out of those situations. So I'm just kind of curious to you guys, because I do have a problem with number 6. I understand where they're coming from. We need more certain training, and what he said sounded great. But I don't know about strapping people with a big college bill if they want to be.
But that's why college would be free. Should be free.
Yeah, and that's a different problem we have to fix.
Well, then there should be funding to make it free so they get the education. Because
so it's not defunding the police; it's actually more funding, but more training.
But it's not. It's defunding the police, meaning like defunding the militarization of the police and the shit, and putting it back into the communities by investing in education.
Yes.
Right? You are making it harder for these people to not know how to deal with it. And I think I disagree with you. I think number 6 is important because it takes so much longer to do anything else than to become a police officer. And if you have that much power on you, you need to be ready and you need to know what you're dealing with. And so that's why I think it's important. However, in this society, we're still trying to make a business out of going to college, and it should be, this is why college for all is necessary.
Exactly.
And I agree with the independent outside investigation.
Absolutely.
And I also think that that workers, that people who are social workers should be called in cases of mental illness, and psychologists, not the police. They're not trained for that. So meanwhile, while they're getting retrained and whatever, like, you do not call them, because unfortunately too many people have died for calling the police for mental
Johnny,
health.
which 2 are the most important to you? Did you even think about it, or?
Yeah, well, they're all important to me.
If you had to pick only 2.
I wouldn't compromise like that.
No, if you had to compromise.
I wouldn't compromise. Yeah. I'd be out in the streets every day, not compromising.
I hear you. I got you. Good answer.
I mean, a lot of them are.
That's the way you feel.
I feel like they're all important.
Yeah, they're all
really important.
They are, but that's what politics is. You can only get certain things.
They're missing some here.
They are. Yeah. They can even expand this list, and I do.
Honestly, just redo the whole police department. Like, dismantle this, fire the current officers right now. See if they have gang tattoos. If they have gang tattoos,
and then do a rehiring process.
Definitely don't hire them and make everyone aware of.
Because there's nothing in here on the screening process when we talk about like this, as far as what they do. Like, when you talk about those officers who come from those that have those tattoos, whatnot, and the reasons why they join the police department stuff is like a legal gun to kill somebody, right? You get a license to murder. We have to be able to screen these people out. We have to be able to make sure, just like the way the Catholic Church needs to screen their priests to make sure that pedophiles don't get in. We need more screening. So that list needs to be expanded. I think that's great. That's like one of the best things I've seen in a long time. We were talking about that over the weekend with my family. We were kind of showing that stuff. I love those just concrete, solid suggestions on how we really, really change our policing in the States, because it needs to be changed because it's out of hand.
Yeah, so the next thing, speaking of police, so LA won yesterday. I don't know if you saw. I was kind of salty. I wanted Miami to win.
I knew LA was going to win.
Yeah. LeBron's amazing, you know. He's really good. You got to give him his props here.
But Jimmy Buckets was really good, too.
So, you know, people were out, freaking out right there in Staples Center. Just thousands of people celebrating. Fireworks going off. You heard all of them, right, fam?
Yeah.
You were wondering what happened, and I'm like, oh.
Nah. Well, I was seeing the stuff on Twitter.
I forgot about the game, and I'm like, oh.
Wait, this wasn't a Joe Biden rally? They weren't getting excited for that?
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, so a bunch of people came out to celebrate whatever on the streets, you know, how they do, like if a Super Bowl, you know, how they did in Philadelphia. So the cops actually started showing them what's up. So here they start shooting.
What is the point? I guess because it's COVID?
Law and order.
What are they doing this for? Why?
People, shouldn't they just allow people to be happy for one fucking day?
What did you do with yesterday?
That was a big mortar.
This is such a waste of resources.
So police are shooting. I just want to show this family kind of like walking by. Look how scared like the kids are. There are kids out there and they're shooting stuff like that, you know? You know, just a little fun. I just want to show you how scared everyone was and the whole police force, you know, just showing.
The horses are out.
Just showing this reality to y'all. They're pretty much in riot gear. Helmets and everything.
But it was a party. I guess people were dancing a lot and getting kind of crazy.
So, you know, I'm just kind of got a young woman got hit. Looks like she was crying from pain, and one of the officers responds that she shouldn't be here when people are asking for help. Police aren't here to help us, and they have prioritized this young. If they were, they would have prioritized this young woman's injury.
Yeah, can you show this? I remember her crying.
Look at this. This is.
She's hurt. What do you mean, put it down? She's fucking hurt. You don't hear her crying? You don't hear her crying, bro? She's fucking hurt. She's hurt, bro. She's hurt. Put her down. What is it gonna make a difference, bro? It's not gonna make a difference, bro. Can you get Medicare, please? Can you please do me a favor and get Medicare, please? Sir. Let me get over there. Sir, get on that side. Go. Can you get Medicare, please?
So yeah, the initial response is you shouldn't be there.
That's what they want to be.
They sound like fucking military.
But that's the whole point.
Disgusting.
This is why there's no separation.
Here, Samuel Braslow, who's I'm not sure who he's a journalist for.
Holy shit.
Yeah, less lethal round hit his phone out of his hands. It looks like it didn't really hit him, but his phone's fine, I guess. But just showing you like, all that.
He had an OtterBox.
He's just like filming, so why would you aim at that guy?
It's just really interesting because this isn't a protest. It was like Lakers won.
Oh, this one's disgusting. You guys gotta look at this one.
No, I didn't see this
Cop
one.
knocks a young man over and doesn't even bother to check in on his limp body on the ground. Jordan here, Myercella, says that she doesn't feel safe having police force devoid of basic empathy. So look at this. To protect and serve.
Who are they protecting? And what is the point of that? It was a Lakers game. Like, right. I mean, I understand telling people, I don't know. I don't think it requires tear gas and rubber bullets and all of this.
There's different ways. They got to try different ways. There's different ways. If you want to crowd control.
Yeah, but, and then the thing is, people are also reacting like this also. It's psychological. You can't ignore, like, finally, they're happy that the Lakers won, and they're like, oh, we're going back to normalcy. It's cool, the Lakers won. You can't even give them that one moment. You can't even give them that.
This is their normalcy, the police state.
You know, and I hope people see who haven't participated in the protest, see this and see that this isn't just crazy looters and all this shit provoking the police. This is what the police have been doing for the last 6 months, guys. Like, I hope you see that now, that even when you're at a Lakers, celebrating a Lakers win, and you should be proud of your city. I mean, I've been to parades and stuff when there's a Super Bowl and all this crap. It's normal to have, like, people being excited. I know it's COVID, but at the same time, like, you know, maybe be like, hey, guys, I know we're all having fun, but, you know, just be careful and blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't have to show up there like G.I. Joe and do this shit.
You expect brutalization if you're out there. Here's some just aerial footage I saw. It was kind of interesting. Look at this one. This one's crazy. Like,
it's a lot of people.
There's a lot of people.
That's probably what they didn't like.
Look at what numbers do with police here. And now, I mean, I wish these people would come out for, you know, civil rights.
Right.
Instead of like a game.
We talk about that. Everybody knows who's on their team, where they went to college, what position they played, what high school, but they don't know who their local rep is.
Yeah. But even that, Jonathan, but you're right, absolutely. But them coming out, I hope a lot of these people saw how they were treating people. The police were treating people. And I hope that changes your perspective a little bit.
I'm waiting to see when they have this whole tsunami of evictions and what happens. And really, because then you're going to see some really angry, lost, just at the end of the rope people. I mean, what are they going to have now when you don't even have a residency?
Nothing scarier than somebody that has nothing to lose.
Exactly. And you're going to have a lot of people with nothing to lose because it's been taken away during this crisis when our government is supposed to look out for us. Our California super democratic government, right? They're not going to do anything. So it's going to be crazy out over here as well, fam. So I'm waiting because I really want to see that out in the street, 30,000 people when the evictions happen. Yep. And we'll see what's what then.
At one point, I wanted to get this, that the cops start reversing from the crowd.
Well, they can't. That's the thing, and that's what I keep telling people. If you guys want to make change, you need a lot of people out there for whatever issues, and they can't really mess with you that much. I mean, they could drone everybody, but... Well.
That's
United
why
States wouldn't do that.
They could join you, but
still, like, if they did that, then what is this government? The United States would destroy any semblance of anything that it ever was.
Well, that's the thing. If there's an eviction crisis and you're talking across the board, everybody in this country, if 30% of the people get evicted from their houses, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Oh, forget about it then. You're going to have a lot of people in the streets with a common goal, pissed off that they don't have proper housing. And it's a shame that it had to happen to them before they realized that we have such a housing problem here. Because people like us have been screaming like housing is an issue. Housing is an issue. But maybe this is what's needed to get people to realize that when housing is taken away from you, then you're going to realize what's going on.
And the police
and the way the police treat you.
The LA sheriff are in charge of evicting people.
And the last thing I just want to show is that, you know, I haven't seen any news about this looting that the LA Lakers fans have done. They've done looting on Starbucks. And, you know, how come people aren't saying, you know, there's stupid people that are always going to take advantage of a situation.
Yeah, there's stupid people that are always going to do something.
So in any protest, any riot, people are going to take advantage of that situation. But I haven't seen shit about this on mainstream media.
Yeah.
So.
Because it's the LA Lakers. It's not a BLM protest.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. And like okay, that looting, yeah. But again, are we going to punish and say that every person that was out there was like, no, it was obviously just a few people.
It's not a monolith,
because
right?
it's not, well, it's not a monolith. And those are all kinds of people from all walks of life going into thousands of people. Out of all those people, some of them are going to do something wrong.
There's a lot of homeless people over there, too, as well. It's like all these areas, there's a ton of homeless people. Literally, the one CVS we saw during the one rally, and they're like, look at this, what's going on? It's like, there's a homeless encampment right next door.
Yeah.
A bunch of people in tents were running out of their tents, running in, grabbing supplies, and then running back out. They were desperate. And that's what's going to happen if somebody says, oh, my God, there's an opportunity to grab something, water, milk, coffee, whatever the case may be, they're going to go grab it because they're poor, they're on the streets, and they're going to take advantage of this situation. Before the Bolivian thing, John Ward Jr. says, hey, I'm still waiting on election integrity. Well, call me, John. I left a message with your secretary. I'll call you again, and we can talk.
Okay.
Bolivia, right?
Yes. So this Bolivian, the coup figurehead, honored the CIA-backed soldiers responsible for Che Guevara's murder. And we have a little video I wanted to play by Camila from Telesur.
You got two of them, right? You got the first one and the second one?
Yeah.
49 miembros de nuestras Fuerzas Armadas.
So I'll just...
47 ciudadanos nuestros cayeron víctimas del terrorismo guerrillero que trajo.
So she's talking about the victims of the Che Guevara's government and 47 heroes. She says they were the CIA backed though coup. This happened 53 years ago. And this is Janine Añez, and who is now, the fascist, the fake leader of Bolivia. And she has vowed also, later on, she talks about, she's vowing to make sure that Evo Morales and his government, his party faction are kept entirely out of that. And like I said, Venezuela is the last bastion of socialism that there is in Latin America, because we removed Evo Morales in Bolivia via coup, and they're the last one in South America. Now we have Cuba, that is an island, obviously, and they have communism, but it's a form of communism that isn't really flourishing because of the U.S. actions on it. And every single time you can find the U.S. connections there to coups, to sanctions, to embargoes, to every single nation that is of socialist or communist ideology that threatens the capitalist Western imperialist empire. And that's just a fact. You can vilify these leaders and say, well, Che Guevara, well, Fidel Castro and all these things, but that doesn't change the fact that they had to do things to protect themselves from the boot of the U.S. empire. And that's something that never gets discussed as these people are vilified.
Honoring Che Guevara's death. That's just rubbing it in your face, ladies and gentlemen.
And it's Columbus Day, fam.
Well, I like this one because my Sicilian side of my family hates Christopher Columbus. They always talk bad of him, and there was one side of the family that talked well about him. But, this one from Melina Abdullah says Christopher Columbus was a thief, a rapist, a sex trafficker, a pedophile, a colonizer, a murderer, and a crazed genocidal maniac. And not to mention an idiot. Fuck Columbus and the ship he rode in on. It's funny because this is an Italian group I was a part of, right? And there was a lot of us in that room that did not like Christopher Columbus, and a lot of other people who did like Christopher Columbus. And they were always fighting because they signified Columbus Day as their Italian day. It's like their one day. Like, if we don't have this, we don't have anything. There was actually an episode in The Sopranos where it was a big thing where it's like they were fighting for Columbus Day, and we see other people fighting for Columbus Day. And I was always trying to say, well, listen, we gotta shed this asshole. He doesn't represent us. He doesn't represent our culture. And I was trying to get them to say, hey, one of the guys who invented the telephone, his name was Antonio Meucci, an Italian guy. They stole it from him and gave it to Bell. Why don't we fight to make him our symbol of beacon? He was an inventor. He became an American citizen. He didn't speak very well English. But I was always trying to find some form of way to replace him. But I can tell you this much: there's not a lot of Italian American community nowadays in America. But the Italian American community that's left are still fighting. They protect his statue in Philadelphia. So, and they don't look at it as Christopher Columbus. They look at it as themselves like, this is our Italian holiday. If you would take this away from us, what do we have? That kind of mentality.
And fam, Christopher Columbus was working for the Spanish Queen, Isabella, which is really funny. Like he was working for a woman. Doing all this. I'm just saying.
Anyways, so we got it's Columbus Day, but people are calling it Indigenous Peoples Day.
That's what it should be. Yes.
Teddy Roosevelt, Abe Lincoln statues, and this was yesterday. We're taken down in Portland. In a day of indigenous rage protest on the eve of Columbus Day. So there's that footage there. Yeah.
What they tried to do in LA across from what they tried to do in LA across from the metro was give an Italian museum. And that was because there was no Little Italy, and a bunch of Italians that moved out here to LA back in the days when the Brooklyn Dodgers moved out here, part of the culture, part of the community. They never got their Little Italy. LA was one of the only towns that not have a Little Italy.
San Diego has one.
So they complained, and actually San Pedro is a Little Italy. It's got a lot of old school Italians over there. I wish they get some vegan pizza for me. But they gave them this Italian museum of sorts. You know what I'm saying? I would think it'd be a great push for the Italian community, if there's anything left that are still fighting to keep this Christopher Columbus kind of thing going, that they switch gears and go to something and point out an Italian that was much more, uplifting and understanding and loving and did many things. Not a slave trader, a piece of crap working for a monarch, you know, an aristocrat, an elitist and whatnot. You know, he was like Donald Trump. He went bankrupt several times. They had to go to Isabel to say, fund my expedition.
Right. And in 1492, everybody learns about Christopher Columbus in kindergarten. And when I was taught Christopher Columbus, I was taught him in a very positive light. And then you realize that they're like, oh, he came in the Niña, La Pinta, and the
Santa Maria,
and he just came in there and he was fine and he was friends with them, and then somehow they just disappeared, and he
Empire
they paint
education
this in like this
education,
positive way,
glorifying imperialism.
I like what Mark Charles says. Christopher Columbus was lost.
And they do.
That motherfucker was
lost. He was fucking lost. And they do like
know where
plays.
He's going.
They do plays of him where he's like saving the Native American people. I mean, this is how far the indoctrination goes, Johnny.
Yeah, and I'm just showing, just some photos that Redfish stream. If you're not following them on Instagram, you guys need to follow them. They post a lot of great stuff that I wish we could post. We need a bigger team, though.
Yeah, they're out in Bolivia right there. That's some indigenous people. Like I said, to tell you the truth, I'm more of a peaceful person, and, you know what I'm saying? But I have a certain line and a limit, and I really wish the indigenous people of Bolivia would wake up in the middle of the night and throw that government out of there.
That's what Cornel West was saying.
Just wake up in the middle of the night. You outnumber them 5-1. Just start marching and whatnot. But it's Evo Morales who's saying, no, please be peaceful. He doesn't want to see his people die.
That's his Bernie side.
That's I'm like that too.
2 weeks ago, the United Nations General Assembly met, and they've posted that we remember the speech of the first indigenous president of Bolivia, Evo Morales, who was cooed.
Único hogar, y es irreemplazable. Constatamos con tristeza que continúan las grandes asimetrías sociales. Según datos de Oxfam, en la actualidad 1.300 millones de personas viven en la pobreza, mientras el 1% de los más ricos se quedó con el 82% de la riqueza mundial en 2017. La desigualdad.
Right, and he's talking about this international inequality.
Pobreza,
and it's not just the United States. This is what we need to realize, and this is what the Black Panther movement also talked about a long time ago, where it's an international anti-imperialist movement that needs to be taken over, where you realize that you're all the working people of the world are against the elite, because the 1% are the one that are stripping the planet of resources, that are stripping everybody of anything, and they are hoarding the wealth at the top. And when somebody points this out at this large level and then tries to do it at the micro level, they're going to be a very dangerous target for the CIA and the Western Empire. And it's interesting, Johnny, I don't know if you can comment on this, but you see socialist democracies in Europe, right? You see them in the Netherlands and Denmark, but you don't see that in South America, because they don't want that to happen, because socialist democracies are still sort of participating in capitalism, whereas in South America they were actually attempting to not do that. And also, of course, you have the indigenous people too that are being attacked in Venezuela and in Bolivia.
Just really quick, just want to remind people that during Evo Morales' tenure, he reduced the poverty rate by 42%. He reduced extreme poverty by 60%. Income per person has increased by more than double of the Latin American average when Evo Morales took over. The literacy rate, Johnny, education dropped from 13% to 2.4%.
Illiteracy, right?
The literacy rate. In other words, he taught people how to read.
Yeah.
Unemployment went from 9.2 to 4.1, and it's still one of the fastest growing countries as pertaining to the GDP. Evo Morales was the first indigenous leader of Bolivia. And let's not forget, fam, we'll coup who we want to coup. That was what he was talking about. They were talking about the lithium there. That's what that was all about. We stole that lithium.
Elon Musk said.
Yeah, Elon Musk.
Jesse L. joking, supposedly,
Yeah. Jesse L. said a lot of Italians are brown. Are they also people of color?
Okay, a lot of Italians are brown, but Pasta's definitely not a person of color. Pasta's definitely, he looks like he's from fucking like Germany or something. Come on, let's be real here.
My Polish side comes out a lot, fam.
Whatever.
Johnny, anything else?
Yeah, so the other day Redfish posted this, and it's like it's just depictions of historical victories over colonizers. And again, it was the empire education that I wanted to talk about, how they glorify Christopher Columbus, imperialists like Christopher Columbus, and never talk about this. I never knew about these historical victories of colonizers. So this first one is when Native Hawaiians killed British invader Captain James Cook, 1779. Number 2, hanging a French colonial soldier during the Haitian Revolution of 1791. Painting 3, Ambron revolts of 1817, led by Capitan Patimura against the Dutch colonizers in what was then known as the Dutch East Indies. Painting 4, the Philippine warriors of Lapu-Lapu kill Portuguese colonizers Magellan and his Spanish forces at the Battle of Mactan. I never knew that Magellan was killed by Philippine warriors.
Yeah.
Zulus killing the British lieutenants Melville and Coghill at the Battle of Islandwa.
We gotta watch that movie.
Painting 6, the Khoi warriors of Cape of Good Hope defeating and killing Portuguese colonizer Viceroy Francisco de Almeida. I remember this guy. One of the most feared colonial commanders at the Battle of Gorenhaikwa in 1510. Painting 7, portrayal of British General Gordon's death by the Sudanese at the Battle of Khartoum in 1885. Number 8, death of Prussian colonizer Major Gustavus von Temsky by Maori. I can't say these words. By the Manu in 1868. Painting 9, Ethiopians defeating Italian forces at the Battle of Adwa, led by Ethiopian Emperor Menelik II. And yeah.
You know what all those people were there for? Colonizers? Resource extraction.
Yeah.
They were going to take the land, to take the resources. Bottom line. And today it's the same thing. Going to take the land, to take the different resources that they were back then. They were more basic resources. Today we have situations like Bolivia, which was all about the lithium, fam. Right? They didn't want the Chinese who outbid the Americans, and Evo Morales was going to take that money to enwealth his people, to enrich his people, to give them resources, and America said no. I really would like to know Donald Trump's role, if he had any of that in that role in that coup. You know what I'm saying? Because Bernie Sanders came out and said it was a coup right away. A couple people said it was a coup. When we eventually got the answer from Tulsi Gabbard, she says it is a coup and Americans should not be involved. We were looking down the lines. We were seeing that it was Cruz, right?
Yeah.
It was Rubio.
Yeah.
Rubio. There were some backdoor conversations and channels. I wonder. Donald Trump knew.
I absolutely he knew.
It happened during his watch.
Absolutely he knew. There's no defense of him. He knew.
So when they say that he hasn't started any new wars, I say no, Bolivia, you know what I'm saying? And not to mention he continued the same failed policies in Latin America, in Venezuela, in Cuba, as Barack Obama did, as
and in
George
the Middle
Bush.
East he's expanding as well.
Yeah. I mean, well, there's areas in the Middle East where he picked out a few areas which people are trying to hone into, but there's other areas he did not. So, I mean, he's not the peace candidate. Don't get confused. Don't get it twisted. If you want to say he's better than Joe Biden, I'm not going to argue that, because Joe Biden stood up the Senate for the Iraq war. But he is not the peace candidate. He's not what we need. He's still a pro-imperialist president. Bottom line. That's why I'll never vote for him. You know what he's doing in Venezuela alone, and what happened in Bolivia. That's a big no-no. Sorry.
Yes. Okay. So then, so there's a song that I've heard from my family.
All right.
And I don't know. It's the Indigenous Peoples Day, so I was like, let's play this song.
Are we gonna get copyrighted?
I don't think so. No. It's a Peruvian indigenous song. So let's hear. I translated the lyrics so you guys can read it.
Gotcha.
Yo lo soy y no me compadezcas, que esas son monedas que no valen nada y quedan los blancos como quien da plata. Nosotros los cholos no pedimos nada, pues faltando todo nos alcanza. Déjame en la puna vivir a mis anchas, trepar por los cerros detrás de mis cámaras, arando la tierra, tejiendo unos ponchos, pastando mis llamas, y echar a los vientos la voz de mi quena. Dices que soy triste, ¿qué quieres que haga? No dicen ustedes que el cholo es sin alma y que es como piedra sin voz, sin palabras, y llora por dentro sin mostrar las lágrimas. ¿Acaso no fueron los blancos venidos de España que nos dieron muerte por oro y por plata? No hubo un tal Pizarro que mató a Atahualpa tras muchas promesas bonitas y falsas.
Sounds like the Democratic Party.
Yeah, we're not gonna play the whole thing. I just wanted to play a segment of that. But basically, you know, it's a whole. He talks about how Pizarro from Spain came over and killed Atalupe.
Pizarro was a conquistador that went into South America. There was the other one that went into Mexico, and the story was that they were welcomed them with open arms, and then when they saw how much gold the Incan Empire had, they killed them and imprisoned their leader, who they named Atahualpa, and they imprisoned the leader and they took all the gold, and that's how the empire was destroyed. And then of course there was the intermingling, you know, of the Spanish with the people, and then there was the revolt of the people in general in South America, because the viceroy, the capital of the Spanish empire, was in Peru, wasn't it? It was either in Cusco or Lima. I can't remember which it was, but
it was Cusco.
That's where the capital was, and so that's where they were able to expand from there, and then bring in all the colonizers. And it's interesting because in South America, the culture is made up of everybody, like the vast majority of people, depending on the country, but a lot of people are of mixed origin. You know, they're not just native origin, they're white, indigenous, and sometimes often black, because blacks were also brought into via slave trade. So there's a little bit of a difference in cultural representation there, where in America it was mostly kept separate, in North America. So that's why I think there's the race things are still there, but it's a little bit different than what here was, because it was like the Native Americans here were exterminated and they didn't intermingle with the population as happened in South America.
Slow Days News put this up here. We're coming up almost on 2 hours of the show. I know you guys are going to be pissed off at me because I went to that Clear thing today. The line was so big. And the guy's like from Clear, like, hey, check it out. What not? Yep. I didn't realize it. So he goes, look, just take a look at this. And I look, and it takes a print of my eyes. I'm like, you son of a bitch. You didn't tell me we're going to do this thing. Like, now you got me? Like, I'm like, the CIA has me already. But they are coming out with more things like this, Johnny. Did you put this up there? Or?
No, I put it up there.
So, fam, what do you have to say about this?
Kill it with fire. I agree with Steve. Like, kill it with fire. We don't want this. I mean, I don't know how we're going to be able to escape this. This is why our civil liberties are so important, right? Because if technology gets so ahead that they can find us, you know, like on Minority Report, what was it? The
Tom
movie.
Cruise? Yeah.
Like, where, you know, they find people with their eyeballs, with the irises, because every iris is unique. Then how if we don't have protections, how do you expect not to be controlled by that? This is a very dangerous territory we're entering, and I think technology is getting ahead of the political politics of it, because we don't have these protections. And then Johnny posted this tweet from Rania.
This is pretty funny, though. I mean, not funny, but it's scary. Like, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, so I've seen this happen.
When Johnny's retweeting it, you got to go like, wait a sec, what is Johnny retweeting? It must be Empire Education. So, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, it's just, it happens all the time. Like, when I put, like, Hillary Clinton, or when I put Bernie Sanders, or when I put Putin, it's the same thing. Like, all the establishment narrative comes to light. So why capitalism failed, and she gets one result, and then it's all socialism, and socialism doesn't work. It's happened to me before when I've actually Googled things like that. But the one thing I wanted to point out is Johnny posted DuckDuckGo actually points you in the direction that you were going. Why capitalism fails, why capitalism failed, when capitalism fails, blah, blah, blah. Instead of actually, you know, the other part where they're trying to vilify socialism, which is what obviously the Empire Education wants us to do. So, guys, that was a long show. Thank you so much.
Real quick, Kanye put out a fucking...
Oh, God. Do we need
to talk about Kanye? What is America's destiny? What is best for our nation, our people? What is just, true justice? We have to think about all these things together as a people. To contemplate our future, to live up to our dream, we must have vision. We as a people will revive our nation's commitment to faith, to what our Constitution calls the free exercise of religion, including, of course, prayer. Through prayer, faith can be restored. We as a people are called to a greater purpose than ourselves. We are not only a beacon to the world, but we should be servants to each other, to encourage each other, to help each other, to lift up each other, our fellow Americans, that we may all prosper together. We have to act on faith with the sure knowledge that we are pursuing the right goals and doing the right things. We will build a stronger country by building stronger families. Families are the building blocks of society, of a nation. By turning to faith, we will be the kind of nation, the kind of people God intends us to be.
I am Kanye West, and I approve this message.
So he's more like Mike Pence than anything else that I get from this ad. It was a better ad than Joe Biden had. But the religion part is really unappealing to me.
That was the first time I watched it. I was kind of interested because it got released like 3 hours ago.
Writing Kanye West. Like,
I just wanted to see what he had to say, and that's hilarious. So, there you go.
Well, America, you're officially a joke. You live in a joke, and that's that. Sorry, guys.
All right, guys. There's 256 people watching and only 198 thumbs up.
Yeah,
Please
what the hell is that?
Well, you know what I'm saying? There was only 11 people over on Rokfin today. We need to get those numbers up. You guys are going to get me in trouble. Is this
unbelievable,
still live over
unacceptable.
there? I don't even know if it's even. Is the Rokfin working still? That's weird. I don't know. Anyways, thank you so much for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Make sure you take our clips and share those out on Facebook or wherever else you guys go play. Also, thank you to our 120 Patreons. Thank you so much. That number's growing. And to always the Super Chat contributions. They really do help us out on the couch. The election's right around the corner. We're going to have a big election day. So stay tuned for some news about that eventually. Just remember, on November 3rd, tune into the Convo Couch. We will have you covered that day. Right, fam? So you get up to the date, what's going on, whatnot. You don't have to watch MSNBC, CNN. You don't even have to watch The Hill. You don't have to watch Fox News. You watch us, and we're going to have a super show. Johnny, anything else before we get on out of here? So that's 2 hours right there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I am Pasta Jardula.
And I'm Fee.
Johnny Sue on the ones and twos. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Join up for our Rokfin if you got a few extra dollars. Subscribe to us for $9.99.
Convo out. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Peace.